We are chatty today in a good way. We love each other. We love each other. Hello, you guys. Nikki, come in. Nikki, come in. Come in. You took a toe in the door. If you're in the room, there's bagels in the back, and then there's also birthday cake for Tim's birthday that was yesterday. Tim Stewart. This Tim. So,
Tim Stewart.
who made the cake? You're his mother-in-law. Oh my gosh. Hey, Chatty's in the back. Shh. We have our special guest, Mark Grubbs here, our wealth advisor, and going to talk to us in a little bit. But let's go through some of our announcements. And before we get into this, you guys, thank you to everyone who came out to Red Day last week. It was so great. Lots of you guys in this room. Yes, round of applause. Like, we made such an impact on that organization. I got a lot of feedback from you guys to go back there next year, right? Because we helped so much. If you weren't there and you missed it, check out the videos and the pictures on social media. It was a really great day of just, what it's all about, giving back in our community together. So thank you guys who took the day out. Yes, Cam. Oh, yes. Okay, so they had a whole list of all these things that they wanted us to do. And they were like, let's just keep thinking, we'll never get to some of these, but this is like our wish list. Well, it was like 2:00 and we were scheduled to be there till 3. And she came and she said, we've actually already completed 95% of this list that I never thought we'd even get through. So like you guys did so much and then finished the last couple of things, but like more work than they ever thought capable, which is funny because we do get that feedback from other organizations too at the food bank. We always go really fast. I think maybe it's our competitive spirit, maybe our the driven mindset of realtors, right? But like you guys always crush it. But it was a wish list that of items that they never thought we would even get to all of them because they only have 3 full-time employees. So if you think about like the power of, I think we had like 65 agents there this year, of 65 people helping, for 4 hours straight of an organization that only has 3 full-time employees. Yes, Frederica.
Would you say we always bring by far the largest group out of all the offices?
Yeah, I would fast.
And
That is true. Would you say that we might have the best agents of that? Yes. But I love that. In fact, you don't understand this. Someone else in our region asked, how do you get so many people to turn up for Red Day? We can't get anyone to show up. And I was like, well, it
We
can't.
made them.
No. Yeah, it's not just
Red Day. It has to be about like you have to have a good culture. Your agents have to like each other. They have to know what Red Day is, right? Like you can't just throw one day on the calendar and hope it works out. So I'm happy you guys all showed up. It makes it so much better when it's everyone giving back together. So okay.
Well,
That was so cool. Drake Adams slides to this to play now. And in front of that.
so if you have good leaders, follow them. Or if you have people that are much younger and you don't want to look really old.
I don't know if I was thinking, we're talking about the Friday, we're like, what kind of store?
Yeah. I'm.
And thank
It was awesome. Okay, right after this class today, Joe is teaching form of the month. And you're going to do a comparison of listing agreements,
yeah,
right?
we're going to do the nuances between ORIF's listing agreement and the RMLS listing agreement, kind of seeing what's in each different one and some of the things that apply and probably should apply that's not in the other. And then we'll mix those up and then we'll turn those upside down. We'll intertwine those and then we'll flip them upside down and then look at them.
I love it.
Okay.
And that is for that core. The form of the month is right after this, and it's 45 minutes, and that's intended for anyone, right? Then there's contract mastery, which is the once a month class. That is, go to the next one. Oh wait, we have an extra slide in here. Dwight is doing scripts on Wednesday from 10 to 11 during agent fundamentals. What are you going to do? Talk about.
We've been having fun reviewing some of the social media trainings that are coming across our phones on how to do scripts.
Okay, cool.
And I have more that I think are really the ones that I would tend to use more than others. So come and enjoy it. It's fun. I think it's fun, right? Everybody's
Yes,
thank you, Tim.
It gets good feedback. And it's during the agent fundamentals time this week, but anyone is welcome to come to that. So I don't know. What day is it? Where are we? Tomorrow the 20th. It's okay. This is what happens when we stress Cole out at the last minute, changing all the slides. Oh my gosh. Good job, Cole. Tomorrow, Wednesday, May 20th. Okay, then on Thursday, Joe has contract mastery, which this is, so anyone can come, but it's really intended to be like a basic, like deep dive into the sales agreement. So if you have not closed 3 transactions, you should be there no matter what. Like this is where you learn to go line by line what everything does. And again, anyone's welcome, but this one is really a little bit more tedious going through the contracts, right? And the commonly used addendums.
Yeah, a little more targeted. Yeah.
A little more targeted. So good classes. Then next week, on Wednesday, we have we're kind of following in the suit of like wealth and talking about things like that. So from commissions to wealth is our CE class, and it is hosted by Fidelity National Title, and it's all about how to maximize your cash flow, minimize your taxes, and build long-term wealth as a real estate agent, right? Like we want you to not just to make money, but then make good money choices. So please register for that just so we can get account for food and the course certificates. And then next week also, Austin Bean with Highmark Photography is doing complimentary headshots for our agents. So it was originally going to go to 4 o'clock, but we only had like a couple spots left. So we pushed it out to 4:30, added a few more spots. So if you want a free headshot, sign up for a spot. I think they're 10-minute slots. And we're going to try to do this every, what did we decide, month? Every other month for sure. Just to help you guys keep some fresh headshots. And that's in this room, but just sign up for a slot and you don't have to go that whole time. You just go for your like 10-minute slot. And then the summer picnic is July 17th. It's crazy to think that like summer is just around the corner and people are already getting busy with plans. So mark your calendars. This is going to be such a fun one. Check your email for all the details, but your families are welcome to attend. There is fun stuff for adults. We have a magician and good wine and good food and a band, Motel California. And then we have fun stuff for kids. We have a balloon guy and all the fun farm things. So it's fun for everyone, adults, kids. But it should be really great. We booked a fun band this year. Shaved ice. What else am I forgetting? All kind. Oh, Tony's doing a Scotch tasting, Scotch for the adults. We have to do equal fun for adults as kids. So if you don't see the full invite in your email, let us know, but you all should have received that. And then just a reminder, the office is closed on Monday. It's Memorial Day. It's hard to believe that this weekend is Memorial Day weekend. But the office is closed Monday. And then when you're writing contracts, it's not a business day. So
Thank you.
Remember that. Okay, and then haves and wants. Thank you guys for putting these in. Waldman and James has a 5-acre house in West Lynn, 3,600 square feet, with just under 4 acres of mature Pinot Noir vines.
Oh, the broker one was last week, okay? And then
Have coming soon, one in River Grove for just over $1 million. Jamie Beltran has one in Capitol Hill, Hillsdale, with an ADU that could be 3 units. Linda has a dual living on the backside of Happy Valley, 600,000 coming soon. And then she also has a condo in First Edition for 700,000 with a deeded garage. And then she wants anything in Lake Oswego under 2.4 million for one buyer, under 1.6 for another, under 1.2 and under 1 million. So Linda has lots of buyers in Lake Oswego. So if you have a match for her, let her know. Not all of them. That was lots of haves and wants. I love it. You guys keep submitting them and we will keep sharing them. And then, so after this, you can either stay for Joe's forms class, or we want to keep encouraging brokers opens, right? If Julie and our ALC culture committee is doing just a small group of the broker tours. And I know some of you guys have been going out. So going out to a couple ones in Lake Oswego today, around $1 million or a little over 2 million, and then between $1 million and 2 million-ish, all pretty close in Lake Oswego. So if you want to jump on that, all you do is just go meet in the front. It's really casual, no sign up or anything. You just show up and caravan together. And then we did just want to give a quick shout out because last month, we had a pretty good profit share month. So we just wanted to remind everyone that we give a portion of our profits every month back to our agents who helped us grow. And it's kind of complicated how it's all calculated, but basically we give back half of our profits, ish. It varies a little bit. So for April, you go to, we profit shared out 6,455 back to our agents just in April. So that's pretty good considering year to date we've done a little over 13,000. And so I just wanted to do a quick call out of anyone who's gotten profit share in 2026. But a shout out to everyone who has referred agents who've helped us grow and found some profit share. Okay, home front, we have Sheridan today. What is going on with lending?
Survey, we got several increases and then a decrease, so it's kind of a wild ride. But the rates this week are looking at about 6.99 for par for conventional, and then 2 points is the 6.375. If you want to do a govy, it's 6 1/4 at no points and 5.75 with the 2 point. And we got an update yesterday too that that email I sent out to you guys a couple weeks ago about the Vantage versus FICO. They have now made it where all of the MI companies are allowing the Vantage scores too. So if you have somebody that maybe was questionable before, they might be good to go now.
well, when we expect some volatility now for a while, right?
And it's kind of ugly right now. I read an email this morning that was talking about the the war and this and that, and I have all these details I could share with you guys if you really want to know about it, but it might be pretty ugly for the next couple of weeks.
More, and it's also like the higher inflation, which I was a big driver.
Yeah. Probably weeks. I mean,
Weeks, because weeks.
it's, I mean, they can still get started on their loan and just hold out for a couple of weeks for rates and lock it up right before closing. So, I mean, there's always that, but, you know, you just never know exactly what they're gonna do. Too bad I didn't have that crystal ball.
So yeah, if you want Sheridan and open to bracket different scenarios of conditions.
What do you encourage folks who are getting under contract as of yesterday or this week to lock in now or ride that ride?
Ooh.
Well, I would explain to them what was happening as far as, you know, it's a risk, but for me, if it was me myself, I'd probably ride the wave, but there's also, you know, like the other thing is we have that program with the 105 account where the lender is paying for that first year of the 1% interest. So if you got a 30-year FHA, the 6.25, and they bought it down for you, you'd get 5.25. So maybe it wouldn't be so bad to lock it in right away. Just for that first year, you'd have a better rate.
Good tips. All right, we have a commercial minutes with Cameron, and today we're talking about tenant rep.
A very fun topic. So there's the idea of leasing, right? There's landlords and tenants in leasing, and they have a separate asset class for tenant representation because this is so important. Most of commercial real estate value outside of multifamily is carried by the value of the tenant, the structure of the lease. So that is why tenant representation is so important. There are specific firms around Portland and in every city that literally all they do is tenant rep. And that could be technically anything from a salon that's looking, right, for 1,000 square feet up to representing IKEA, representing Costco. And those are sort of the big deals, the dream deals that most tenant rep brokers want to, you know, aspire to represent. Because not only are they large individual deals in large locations, a lot of times if it's a national player, they're looking in many states at the same time. So the leverage you can get from that can be pretty significant. We went over this next. Okay, so how valuation works, right? The tenant matters for everything, the tenant and the structure of the lease. So the tenant, there's the value from the perspective of the landlord of the tenant occupying the space. And then there's the value to the property from the perspective of the landlord for things like getting loans. And so the credit worthiness of the tenant allows them to negotiate against the landlord for as good of a lease deal as possible. And then whatever that carried lease, the terms of that carried lease are, carry the value for the landlord in that scenario. And sometimes the tenant can actually own the property too. Key terms to know, lease comps is very similar to sale comps. One of the nuances is figuring out the lease types and making sure that you're comparing apples to apples. In previous weeks, we've talked about triple net leases. There's double net, there's absolute net land leases, trying to figure out ways to change or strip out and separate the individual leases so that you can actually compare them is key to being able to understand lease comps. Occupancy cost is your base rent plus the expenses. Net effective rent is usually the best way to compare everything. And that takes your occupancy costs and then also adds in whatever the concessions are. And then lease economics is literally just talking about how the underlying financials of the lease. We talked about credit setting, credit worthiness for tenants, landlord financing. So when you are bringing a tenant to a deal, there are normally TIs, there's tenant improvements, and there's the landlord TIs, and then there's the tenant TIs. It's a little bit redundant. Depending on, again, who the tenant is, you can oftentimes negotiate very drastically different TIs from the landlord. So, and that also differs across asset classes. So if you have something in the retail world versus an industrial tenant, and you have different durations, those usually carry different levels of TIs. The SBA matters also in tenants. So a lot of tenants, when they're coming into a space, can get an SBA loan for the FF&E, the equipment for their concept. And so what matters to them is, are they a new business? Are they expanding? Are they a franchise? Do they have any sort of corporate relationship or corporate guarantee for the territory they have? Kind of like Keller Williams in this location, right? It's by, there's this, is it a zip code, or is it a city, or is it a radius that Keller Williams uses for the franchise? Radius. So, but every franchise will be a little bit different on that front. So this is the more descriptive, so these are, what is your motivation, size requirements, special or specific needs for individual spaces. Again, this changes depending on the asset class that you're in. Geographic areas, looking at psychographic information, proximities, looking at workforces matters a lot, like call centers. And a lot of times they'll look regionally too. So we were working with one tenant that was looking at setting up call centers in different zip codes. So we looked at all of the West Coast markets, all of the Central region markets, and then the East Coast markets, and then picked a city in each of those to set up a 40,000 square foot call center. And budget. Okay, I decided to break it down into really, really basic. A lot of times we go over more specific questions, but what matters, once we know if a client is a business, are they looking to buy or lease? Okay, let's just assume that we figured out that they want to lease. Okay, we're in the category of tenant rep. The two most important things that really help with figuring out the direction of the deal and the transaction is what is the motivation and their timing, so that we in commercial know how to follow the client's timeline. And are they a new or existing business? That matters significantly. We have lots of conversations with individuals that are local. And I'll use the salon example again. There's somebody who's a part of a salon like Trey Chic down the road, and they want to go off on their own. That would qualify as a new business. The level of effort, both on the broker side and on the tenant side, to make that work is very significant. Oftentimes more work than a lot of other lease deals that we're talking about. And a lot of times, because it's a new business, it limits the duration of the lease term and therefore can limit the amount of money that comes as a commission, right, that we all work for. So, and then the second two that I like that are really helpful would be the type of space that they're looking for and the size of space. So a lot of time, I just got a call from a residential agent that said, I have somebody who's looking in the industrial space. And that was all that we knew. We didn't know if they were looking to lease or buy. We didn't know the size. And so in the world of, we're calling it commercial, which could apply to anything, office, retail, medical office, industrial. If you have a business, it's key to know, what are they looking for, a 40,000 square foot office versus 1,000. It's a completely different ball game with how that process would work. So understanding the first two are the key, and then the second two help a lot. And then anything finance related, there's the budget. It's not quite the same as, in the rest of the world of commercial. Like if I want to buy real estate, I normally have a budget or equity that I want to buy. In the world of tenancy, we can take on the conversations with the tenant about budget because it's very nuanced. Does that make sense? Any questions about tenant rep?
We've got a lot of the weeds that come from essentially.
Yes, that's why I crafted these questions. I think these would be based on the conversations that I have every week. These would be the most helpful for helping narrow in the initial conversation or the initial introduction that we have with them.
So for a better understanding, what would be some of the motivations for situations where somebody may want to be owner occupied, like a small medical office building, or go for tenancy to help us as residential realtors sort out what kind of other questions may be relevant to maybe flip somebody from a tenant situation into, maybe you should talk to the guys about actually trying to buy maybe more economical.
That is exactly the way that you craft that is exactly why I included this item here. So understanding why they're looking and doing what they're doing is key. Sometimes I get introduced in a situation where they are looking to lease when they should be looking to buy, and vice versa. They say what they want to buy, and then I ask the further, but the motivation is the story of why they're looking is really the key. And oftentimes that exposes the second question. Is it a new or an existing business? Do they have a loan coming due? Do they, are they getting kicked out of the space that they're in? All that stuff.
What kinds of uses are more conducive to an owner occupancy, or do you not have an opinion on that?
No, it highly variable. Well, I will say that in the medical space, a lot of medical users like to own, and because they can get crazy financing deals. And now, in the last 3 or 4 years, too, a lot of contracting businesses can do zero down loans. If you're a plumber, electrician, lenders love them.
So when an owner occupied medical use shows up, the sales approach is going to be higher because it's kind of a premium product, but that is offset by the financing advantages with zero down type of thing, or the.
Potentially, yes. When we are valuing, which is, this is not tenant rep related necessarily, right? Tenant rep, this in how we are classifying it is for leasing. But if they're looking to buy, yes, it's key to know when you're looking at comps, did an investor buy a property or did an owner user buy the property? Because that could matter, especially in sort of variable times like now, where appraisals are all over the map. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Explain coming soon.
So we're, what?
Right.
I don't even know what this is. Oh my, I know this. Yeah, it's like,
Project, so we can see the whole start to finish, what they bought. Don't give away all the pictures.
Those are the
Learn from the
entryways.
class. How they added value, what they were able to use it for, so it's.
Hold on, is that a property you bought and that's your current maybe project?
Mhm.
Yes.
It was cool. We love seeing these, like, once it's all the way, kind of like really.
Was that the renting excuse?
yes,
Yes.
Oh.
yes.
I think she just called.
There were like 8 contractors at this property. This is a tasting room property in Dundee. Just as you enter Dundee, it's right next to the RV resort.
It came with a sewage treatment plant.
Oh.
Nice.
That's what you're looking at photos of, yeah.
Tasty area right there.
I advertised and then ask for right there for next.
All right.
I'm gonna take it.
It's only up there because Cameron and I did last year on a property, trading a house for a new industrial property. Then I did work, talked about all the things that went wrong. We just signed the lease on it yesterday, so now we can close the loop on that. And we're gonna do that in July, because we'll be on vacation for a lot of June. So in July, we're gonna have the whole start to finish, what the numbers look like. From residential rental into an industrial, and then leasing it out, the add value that we did, how it all worked out. And then we're gonna start with this new purchase that I just did from a bank. And that I'm working on right now, and I'll go over the metrics on that, so we can look at what happens when that's done too.
And it's fun, it's the real, like, scenario, the good, the bad.
Yeah. This is a real life scenario, which I purchased with my retirement plan. Because I didn't like what the stock market was doing, so I thought, okay, I'm gonna sell my stocks, and I bought this property at a very good price. And my plan is to sit on it for a few years and see how it goes.
Yeah, that's just.
Perfect.
We should just go over to Mark Grubbs, who is a wealth advisor, and was introduced to me by Veronica. And because he presented previously at.
So he had presented at Sotheby's, I think that was 2017, and there. But he was. Have that value partner to have. We have 31 people, he's well advised for people, and Mark is fabulous. He does classes for clients too, and we've also talked about doing hybrids. Just, have
Or I'm just whatever. Jamie knows that I make some.
Yes.
Leave it, Jamie.
We're gonna do another one just for our luxury agents, more about like working with high net worth individuals. Today we talked about a topic that appeals to everyone, so maximizing the value of your own professional network. So, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you very much. Thank you guys. So, appreciate the warm introduction and quite frankly, just an opportunity to share and discuss some of the important things around finance, right? And finance can be really kind of boring. I know, like, Cameron was talking about stuff. I was like digging in. I'm like, oh, I love this stuff, right? I geek out on it all the time. But I'm not going to dig too deep into weeds today. I think time wise, we're looking at 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll be done before then. Just want to kind of give you guys kind of some high level overview of some of the things that we work on and the importance of collaboration. Okay. Does anybody think that strategy is important when it comes to finance? Right. Absolutely. Right. How does strategy come about when you're working with 5 or 6 different advisors? Collaboration. Right. Collaborate. How do you collaborate though? You get together, you communicate. Okay. So even today, you guys collaborate. You got some mortgage, you got some commercial, you got some real estate, all the different things, haves and wants, right? This is communication. If you're not communicating, you're not collaborating. If you're not collaborating, there's no strategy. We're going to talk about why that's important and how to overcome that. So I'm going to just roughly go through a few of the things that I work on. Primarily, I work on business financial planning. Every single business owner, well, we've always heard there's 2 guarantees in life. Death and taxes, right? As a business owner, there's a third. You will exit your business. Way down here at the end, okay? Whether you're an agent who's really working in your own business, maybe you've started out your first few years, you're, been around a little while, maturing, trying to find additional growth, or kind of coasting into this retirement phase, it's the same thing for you. Just a little bit different. You're managing multiple balance sheets. So what I want to focus on is how do we create an exit that's appropriate, and that starts the day you open your business. Okay, so your strategy should be discussed well in advance of actually trying to figure out, hey, how do I retire something? Again, you're managing multiple balance sheets. You have your business balance sheet. This is what feeds your personal balance sheet. What I often find is the 2 different balance sheets are managed differently. The way you work your business might be different than the way you work with your family. The thing is, all those things are interconnected. Right? When was the last time you guys made a decision that affected your business? Maybe 10 minutes ago, right? When was the last time your business figured out, like, there's implications on when do I go on vacation? I need to close this before I go, right? That type of thing. Okay. All those different things are interconnected throughout the course of your working years, and they need to be unraveled before you can exit. What I often find too is this gray area between is where a lot of wealth is lost because the balance sheets aren't they're interconnected, but there's no coordination there. A lot of lost wealth, most of it due to taxes. So we're going to talk a little bit about taxes today in a brief fashion. The biggest thing that I often find though is this coordination of advisors that does not exist prevalently throughout your both balance sheets. It might be kind of hard to see this, but over the course of your years, if you've started out, maybe, kind of work on getting a bookkeeper, right? And that's top right here. At some point, you might graduate and get a CPA involved. You kind of start accumulating advisors. You got a great mortgage person. You guys are the real estate brokers. When was the last time your attorney, your CPA, your mortgage broker, your wealth advisor, all were discussing an objective? At the same time, in the same room. Rarely exists, right? So, well, what's the importance of that? Let's take a quick example. If you guys hired a CPA, what would you hope that they're trying to do for you? Like, what are some of the things you get a CPA to do for you? Save on taxes. Like, not just file and prep, because, God, that would be terrible to have to do yourself. But regardless, you want them to minimize your taxes. How they tend to do that is go, hey, where are all the deductions? How do I minimize what you actually earned? And then you go to the mortgage person, you go, hey, I'd like to buy this rental property. Mortgage person says,
I got lots of options. Don't be putting me out there. I got
You gotta have competent people, right? But if your CPA did such a good job and minimized your income to zero, it might be challenging, or your options perhaps might be limited. Okay, that's a simple example. I'm gonna go through a couple others, right? So we have a employee benefits person we work with. Just yesterday, we got connected for a gal that needed life insurance for her business, for her buy-sell agreement, right? Buy-sell means in the event something happens, death, disability, divorce, the business transfers automatically or within a timeline, okay? Well, to function that, they needed some life insurance as an example. So we got invited in to participate and be able to help put that in. Well, just through the course of a few questions and figuring out what's your attorney doing, what's your real estate situation, what's this, that, and the other, we figured out, well, I have this $1.5 million property I'm stuck in because the rate's so good. Well, what do you mean stuck? Well, I'd like to do some other things. There's a property at the coast I'd like to purchase. Okay. But that's only a $600,000 property. I can't sell to buy a lower property. They're like, well, have you guys ever considered DSTs? You guys know what a DST is? Delaware Statutory Trust, right? These are options that can be utilized in coordination for a 1031 exchange. This way, like understanding this, we're going to be able to unlock a listing that leads into another property being purchased alongside with a DST. Okay, just the tools in the toolbox. Got to have a lot of different people working together. And that came from, hey, they need life insurance. Turned into a huge amount of opportunities, right? Transactions, if you would. So our Westpac approach is really just say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Business Owner, what are you doing? Pull up a seat to the table. We have a lot of internal people, but we also coordinate and collaborate externally with great people just like you to make sure that the client objectives are met. There was questions like, well, what are the questions you need to ask? Like, you guys don't need to be the quarterback. You need to be part of the table. Have a seat at the table, right? So kind of hopefully that takes some stress off, but the importance of making sure that you're coordinated, so valuable. Make sure that everything is covered. Ultimately, how are we putting together these retirement puzzle pieces? I got my business over here. I got my personal over here, but at some point I'm going to get rid of the business. I need to figure out how I can sail off into the sunset, do all the fun things. Cash flow is really the fundamental about how you can function the rest of your life. Okay. You guys familiar with a terminology called qualified money? Okay. Really what that means is that it's in a type of product that there is some sort of tax implication agreement with the government. Anybody heard of tax code 401 subsection K? 401k. Ah, yeah. It's like, oh yeah, of course, right? So it's just a tax code, 457, 403B. Those are just tax codes that discuss you're able to defer your income today into the future. Those are retirement accounts, okay? Qualified. Non-qualified means you're just investing in different ways. Real estate can be part in one or the other. Investments, stocks, etc. These are always like dictated on how the taxes are part of the future. Okay. The reason I ask is, anybody know what the maximum amount you're able to put into a retirement account is on any given year? 9, 20, 30K, 70K?
Depends on your age, right?
Depends on the age. Okay, yeah. There are catch-up provisions. There's extra catch-up provisions at 60 to 63. Really unique, and then they stop.
So if I self-employed,
It depends on the type of account, whether it's an IRA, a SEP, a simple 401k, or other. Okay. What a lot of people don't, and I'm not going to go into super detail on this, but this is the cool presentation I discussed with business owners. There's so many more options as a business owner. Do you guys know you can probably put in 500,000 into a qualified plan? Right. So whenever somebody says, I've maxed it out, I go, well, what max? 25 grand, the 70 grand, the 250 grand, or the $1 million plus. Okay. I'm not going to get that.
Linda Heinrich in the office has been doing this. She's been super funding her retirement plan by hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's another conversation.
Yeah. Big deal. Big deal. Right. Most people aren't aware of the other options And I'm not gonna go, and this is really hard to see, I'm gonna go, but there's different levels from 401k, safe harbor, profit sharing. Number 5 is what we call the macro pension. Different types of buckets, there's accumulation of different types of plans. I'm not gonna go into details on this, but here's the really cool stuff. And I'm gonna give you a situation that we utilize this to unlock some real estate options, okay? We had a client come in and they say, hey, I'm not doing just a 401k, I'm doing a 401k and profit sharing. I wish I could do more. Well, how much more? How much more is that, right? Well, we looked at a normal plan here when we coordinate a few different pieces of the puzzle. It's not just your 20, 30, 40 grand or 70 grand. We can actually put $250,000 in per owner. Sometimes even more. Got a couple right now, $1.1, $1.2 million into the plan in one single year. All of those dollars, by the way, are tax deductible. Just imagine the impact. I owe Uncle Sam $400,000 or $500,000 down to maybe 30 or 40 grand. It's a big deal, right? There's some other implications there. When we know how to implement these types of pieces, it can open up new opportunities. Here's what it looks like on a tax document. I'm going to go through this actual client here. So redacted number names here, so it's not sharing information, right? But they have an S corporation. You guys, even if you're LLC, you can file as an S corp. You don't know that, okay? Consult with your CPA. But here's the issue: ordinary business income, $500,000. See that 70,117 right there? Husband and wife doing 35 grand each. They thought they were maxing out. I said, well, no, there's a couple different layers. We can actually take this 517, put it right into line 17 here. We can do 570 as an example. So then your taxable income is only $17,000. How the heck do you do that? Well, we add different pieces to the base layer cake, 401k. There's a lot more tiers. Now, what are the implications of doing that? Well, are you guys familiar with, oh man, this is not very, you guys see that? Read that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. It was just me.
Standing right on top of it.
Yeah, that's probably it. Can't see how far I hit
It
the
is
ball.
you, not me.
Right? Perfect. So are you guys familiar with 199A deduction? You guys all should qualify for it. Okay. So it's really just the ability to get what's called QBI, qualified business income deduction, with your pass-through entity. Okay. Well, there are thresholds to it. So if you're able to deduct 23% of QBI, but you have different thresholds. So depending on your actual earned income, so this client that I was just showing you, the 517 income, did not qualify for QBI. Okay. Well, because we added a different plan, we were able to shelter more money that dropped their taxable income down. So then they qualified for another deduction that wasn't available. Shifting funds. What are the actual implications? Okay. You guys tracking with me? Yeah. I'm moving, playing a little, not a shell game. It's just a matter of strategy. Okay. So we're coordinating with the CPA. They're utilizing different types of qualified plans. And let's jump over to this live. I want to show what the actual implications are. All right. So I'll bring that case here in a second. But what you're seeing is just the software, the planning tools that we utilize. Everybody ever play the game of chess? Or at least familiar with what it is, right? It's the same board as checkers. Two very different games. Okay. The reason I say that is because what we look at here is a balance sheet. If you've ever taken a business class or you're creating your P&L, you have a balance sheet. You have a cash flow worksheet. Cash flow is supporting the balance sheet. Every decision lands somewhere on this board. What's the best move moving forward? It depends. What are your objectives? Where are the pieces? What's supporting and how are you working these things together? That coordination of advisors, real estate, mortgage, tax, retirement, investments, insurances, legal documents. Everything's on here. Do you think it's important for all these different players to be communicating, making sure that your clients have the best resources that are coordinated, collaborated, and strategized? Okay. So again, this is simply the chessboard that we work on. Now, what do we do with the information? I'm going to pause for a second. Any questions? Is this interesting, you guys?
It's interesting.
Okay, good. Just making sure I'm not losing everybody. Somebody turned the lights off, so I'm like, nap, morning nap time, okay? So I'm gonna go through a couple things and I'm gonna bring that case scenario back up and trying to rifle through this relatively fast. I'm gonna show you guys something called wealth building potential. Most advisors, most people just focus on one given year, right? Hey, I'm earning $300,000. What do I do? Well, I'm gonna sit down for a second so I can manage this. Well, ultimately, you're paying some taxes. Maybe you have some debt situation. You live a good life and you're saving 10%. Well, of that 300,000, you're left with 30 grand. You guys tracking the math on this? Okay. Does that work? Does that help?
Yeah.
All right. Now, maybe you have some sort of investment that you're putting those funds into. I don't know, 8%. Okay for today. Now you turn that 30 grand into 32,400. But what does that do over time? So I'm going to back out of this real quick. And go, what if we look at things a little more holistically over the course of time? You're earning $300,000 today. If you guys did the same business today and real estate prices continue to go up, do you guys make the same amount of money or more money? You make more, right? So just inflation impacts you guys and you're making more. That's a cool thing about the nature of your business, right? Well, what does that look like? 300,000 increasing at 5% over the course of 25 years. That's $14 million of income. Sign me up. What if you're doing 500, 700, million bucks? Numbers get really big, okay? But here's the thing. Taxes off the top. Debt. Lifestyle. That same 40, 30, 20. What you're left with after 14 million is 1.4 million. You guys are tracking the math still, right? So we need to have some investment pieces. All right, let's invest the money, get 8%. Well, now we're left with 3.7. All right, not bad. But could we do something different? What if we could minimize some taxes just a little bit more efficiently? Like I showed you, instead of paying taxes on 500,000, what if we could minimize that? Okay. What if your debt situation was just the same? We're not even trying to manage your liabilities differently, though there's probably some options that could be looked at to manage your cash flow. Don't even change the lifestyle. A lot of advisors are, oh, you need to spend less at Starbucks. I don't know, whatever. That's just, there's tax strategy involved. Instead of 3 million, we're at 7 million. That's a much better situation, right? Well, how do we accomplish that? Again, strategy and planning. So if we go back to, well, let me show you this real quick because I got a couple minutes. Let's go to third party. Federal taxes. Okay, what you're seeing here is just the history of tax brackets in the United States. Do you guys feel like we're in a high bracket or a low bracket currently? Feels high, right? Everybody, it's always high. Too much. I pay way too much in taxes. Well, guess what? Back in the 70s, highest marginal tax rate was 70%. This is when tax code 401k and those other tax codes came into play. Those were invented. All right. And that was for higher earners to simply defer some income to later. Well, now that those people that were working in the 60s and 70s are starting to retire, they're in a great position because they're paying maybe 37% at the most. That's at the highest band. Okay. Perhaps some of those dollars are taxed to 10%. So that's a winning situation. Now, let me ask you this. Where do you think taxes are going to go in the future? Up, right? Well, if they stay the same, does deferring help or hinder?
You deferring to death?
Perhaps, right? So now we're talking estate planning conversations, right? These all come into not just shove money on my SEP or simple. What's my estate planning look like? What are my objectives? Okay. Now, I can tell you with a strategy, how do I not just defer to a higher income, but how do I have a strategy on distribution? There's an accumulation phase we're all probably in right now. We're accumulating assets so that we don't have to work someday. That's a distribution phase. In distribution, if you have a plan, we can actually structure it so you will be by design in a lower tax bracket, not by default. Default just means you're making less money and life sucks. Sorry, I don't know if life sucks or not, but you just don't have enough money. Okay. So we can design it so you're actually in, you have different tax implications. So this, when we have the idea of diversification, different asset classes, it's also tax diversification. Okay. We won't go into all that today, but this is where we have to understand, where are you today? Don't just follow blindly, know what your plan is and what is your strategy, not just next few years or this year, but over the course of the next 10, 15, 20 years. What's the strategy? How do I incorporate all these different pieces? If you have that, I'm going to show you that one situation. Okay. So on the left, scenario one, this is just federal taxes, not state. Let me get that bigger for you guys. Is that better?
Yeah.
I want to show that. That's fine. All right. Scenario one, $500,000 of taxable income. Okay. Married, filing jointly. Their effective rate is 22.5%. Their check they're writing the IRS is $113,000. This is just Uncle Sam. Okay. Now, you're in Multnomah County. Okay. So state and all that. They're probably more in effective about 35%. Okay. Alternatively, what we're able to accomplish is shelter a couple $100,000 into a better retirement plan. They qualified for QBI, which mitigated some of their taxes. We also identified they had some real estate. Anybody know what a cost segregation is? Okay. It's a study that can be performed on certain types of real estate investment properties, and you can get higher depreciation early on. Is really the simplest version to say that, right? So you can get more depreciation than the 30 years or 27.5 or whatever the normal depreciation is on the property. You can actually do it earlier, sometimes in 1 year, sometimes in 5 years. So you can imagine we identified that we're able to capture a higher depreciation for them. So not only do they qualify for QBI, they stashed a couple $100,000 for retirement. Their actual taxable income was $165,000. So instead of paying 112, they paid 25,000. Pretty impactful, right? Planning, orchestration. Now, guess what they're able to accomplish now? What are they looking at? An investment property. They're going to have a house again. I have a lot of clients that want to go to the coast for retirement purposes. And then they start moving there and realize the hospitals aren't that close or they're not that good. So then they move back. I don't know if you guys see that or not, right? Yeah. Regardless is, okay, still talking through this. You can now, because you didn't have to pay Uncle Sam so much money, you stash cash for your retirement and you have more left over for other things. Let's look at identifying a property, right? So again, all these different things come into play. Any questions, guys? I kind of rifled through a lot of different things, scenarios, one case study, a couple different ideas.
How do you recommend we start these conversations with our clients?
Asking questions. You know, it's one of the things that if you really want to understand who they are and what their objectives are, you got to ask questions. Well, what is your tax situation? Do you feel like you're overpaying in taxes? That's an easy one that I tend to go about 98, 99% of people go, yeah. Well, let's take a look at your tax returns. Okay. When it comes to business owners, what are some of the biggest pain points that you could imagine? Taxes and overhead, right? Employee costs, right? So for me, it's identifying, well, how do we retain those employees? There are key things that you can do, especially if you have a tax strategy. Let's, instead of paying Uncle Sam, use those dollars to reward and retain key employees. You guys have a profit sharing plan here, right? Company gets to deduct those costs or the profit sharing that they're giving, right? It's an example of that. There's other layers too, okay? But it's ultimately who's on your team. We were talking earlier, it's not just who do you have that has licensing in these other areas, or expertise, but are they competent? Perhaps there might be some leveling up that might need to occur. Is your wealth manager telling you you're maxing out at $8,000 a year? Is your CPA recommending an IRA versus a qualified plan? I don't know, there's a couple opportunities, right?
So you just mentioned that. So if you have an IRA, can you? Can you convert?
That's not a bad thing at all.
Okay, and then it's qualified plan, what's the difference?
Yeah, okay. So what is a qualified plan? It's really just a plan orchestrated from a business, which you guys are all business owners. You can do different things. You can do a 401k. You can do your own pension or profit sharing plan. Right? Right. So you're not obligated to do a simple or a SEP or just an IRA. Maybe that's appropriate, depending on your objectives, your current situation, what else is going on. As there's pros and cons to everything. There's no one magic bullet. Real estate's not the answer. Sorry, guys. It's a really great component of your balance sheet. Retirement plan is not the answer, guys. It's a really good component of your balance sheet. How are you working these things together? Okay. Makes more than just a la carte or in a nutshell or in a vacuum. What is this one thing doing? Right. Other questions? Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think so. I was just curious if needed to convert something to something else, but I guess like whatever.
Yeah, absolutely an opportunity, right? And this is where we can dig in, understand where you are. Yeah. Nice job. Mic drop. Good thing I put my sneakers on today.
You can start breakdancing.
I was about to. Watch out. Watch out. You never know what you're gonna get. But yeah, I think from a standpoint of, perhaps we might be able to plug in, take a look, what's going on? How's the account look? Like, is the portfolio construction appropriate? Are you getting the returns that you're taking the risk for? Like, that's under a microscope, and we do all that. We do employee benefits. You guys are all on your own. I started working with like this agency actually when you were in the old spot, right? And when you guys moved over here, like we were doing life insurance and disability insurance, right? You guys are on your own for that stuff. How do you protect your income? Disability insurance. How do you protect your family? Life insurance. Like, so those risk mitigation tools we're very well expert in, especially working with 1099 or self-employed people. But also, what's the wealth management? How is that coordinated with your tax strategy? How is that setting up future real estate opportunities? All those things coming together. So yeah, what's your estate plan? Where are all the nuances there? So other questions? Right.
So they all run independent businesses. Anyone can hire you. You said at the beginning you usually work with businesses.
Yeah.
But in the process of working with the business, you're looking at holistically at what they've got set up.
Absolutely.
So you're looking at their wills, their trusts, their retirement plans, they have disability insurance, where their money's invested, what they're getting for returns. You do the whole thing, right?
Everything.
And the beauty is you can say, if I'm gonna retire with $1 million and I want to draw 5,000 a month out, how long is that gonna last?
Yeah.
If that's invested in the stock market, you can do those analysis, which is the hard part for us because most people can't do that. They have all those nifty programs and they just plug the numbers in. It will show you how much money you can draw out if you have $1 million in your retirement plan at 65, or if you have a disability, if you have an accident, here's what you'll get. And then you have products you can refer to, right? You say, here's some disability companies, here's some insurance companies, here's an attorney that can help you with your will or your trust or whatever, right?
Bingo.
Okay, so you can do the whole thing. You should all be doing it because what you don't know is what's going to get you. And this is how you start learning what you need to know for your life. And then, how's your fee? What's your fee look like?
Yeah.
Is it hourly? Is it percentage? Is it like, what is it?
Yeah. So I just charge 1% for what we call AUM, assets under management. So there's other pieces to the puzzle. Maybe there's some products like disability insurance as an example. I'll make a few bucks on that. That's just kind of my cherry on top, if you would. But the coordination of advisors is probably the most important facet to this. It's not what you know, but who you know. You've heard that before, right? So who's in your sphere that maybe is adequate or maybe can be helped out a little bit, right? that coordination or communication is going to be extremely helpful. Okay, so having somebody that can look at everything, quarterback it, drive it with you guys, clearly define those roles and objectives, and then timelines. Where are you? What's going to work for you? What's that gap? How do we fill that gap or void? Again, most important to Dwight's point is mapping it out and having flexibility along the way and implementing the right pieces along the way. So
you can, when you meet with Mark, you can look at that living balance sheet. It's crazy interactive. You can see what's happening, where your money is. You can see it grow. You can see it go down when you pull it out right there. That alone is amazing to be able to. I mean, because like before this, I had no idea. I just had all the shit everywhere, right? Right. When you have it all in one space, then you feel like a little bit of like, okay, I've kind of got control of this. In a, I don't know, maybe in something that we really don't have a lot of desire to control, right? It helps. It helps.
I would add, not only that, our business tends to be really busy and we don't want to do all this stuff. And so at some point you have to carve out, this is so important, you have to carve out the time to get it set up. And then it runs itself, right? So now you're just selling, and they're giving you advice on, like I had a rental house and I showed that calculation. I was only getting like less than a 3% return because all my expenses were going up so high. I thought this is ridiculous. I need to move this equity to something else. So that's what they do. They'll sit down and say, why do you have so much money here? Why do you have so much money there? Why don't you put some money here? It's all a balanced approach with the end goal of having an enjoyable life along the way with a lot of insurance things and
insurance breeds assurance, and that plan, to Jamie's point, is seeing it all kind of come together, kind of gives you some power, right? I understand this. You're not going to be expert. Like, let me geek out on the stuff that you don't want to look at, right? And I'll help figure out this is the way to maneuver or play this strategy and planning game.
Well, what I always like to do is when we have speakers like this, then sit there and think about, okay, how can I make a soft presentation or email out to my clients? We know this guy, were you unhappy with your taxes? Great partner, I'd love to introduce you to. I mean, it's just something as easy as that, right?
It is.
And you get a code when your burn says hi, and you get 20% off. No, there's some relationships to get in front of your clients again, not just, hey, can I sell your house? Kind of conversations.
Yes, I love that, good point.
And again, knowing those tools and then figuring out the strategy. And I even know like these DSTs are a powerful tool that can definitely unlock listing opportunities, right? People are sitting scared to make any adjustments because they don't know what the next phase might look like. I can map it out. Let's figure that, like, show what that's going to look like, and help people be more confident in making those moves.
Super simple question. This isn't geographically located to Oregon, is it?
No.
You have assets and geography in various geographies.
Yeah. So even the investment, it should be international exposure too. That's where, even last year, that was the #1 winner, if you would. If you didn't have international exposure, you may not have had the gains around 23% that the current fund did. So, so that's appropriate. So we take into consideration. I even have clients internationally. We understand where things are, the risks that are associated with international assets or movement of capital across borders even. I'm licensed in, I think, 7 or 8 states right now. I do Zooms with most of my clients. I live in Wilsonville, work up off Cruise Way, and so I'm here locally, but I have clients that I work nationally with, internationally too.
We appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Sorry I took a little extra time.
No,
Good question.
thank you so much. So wrap it up.
They didn't want to take the